Good morning, everyone. My name is Raymond Castleberry. I am the Director of Nursing here at Goel Health. I want to just welcome you guys all to the orientation process over equipment cleaning. I just want to kind of jump in, but first we just want to make sure that I express how important it is for us to maintain a good, clean environment. Obviously, if we have equipment that's dirty and we're transferring it throughout the facility, that's a highway for infection to be spread, from one room or one area to another. That's why we're taking the time now to kind of make sure that everyone has the education and knows the process for maintaining equipment. So with no further delay, let's get into it because it's fun. It's fun stuff. It is the policy of this facility for environmental services, cleaning carts to be cared for, cleaned, and properly stored to ensure safety and infection prevention. Obviously, we want to make sure they're in the right spot. We don't want to store a cart right next to food or any of those things. And so cleaning carts should be damp cleaned with an EPA registered disinfectant detergent solution on a daily basis, which will be on the cart or in the designated area for you. Cleaning carts should be stored in the housekeeping closet. In the absence of a housekeeping closet, should be stored in a clean and secure area. There are a few different areas that we can go over during the orientation process of where the cart can also be stored or while cleaning. Housekeeping closets should be cleaned on a routine basis in order to maintain them in a sanitary and orderly manner. Obviously, we're moving things around, it gets dirty, so we need to make sure it's clean because what we don't want to do is have an area where there's a nice growth of bacteria and then go ahead and spread the wealth everywhere. The drainage area for soiled solutions such as mops, water should be cleaned routinely to prevent residue buildup. We have a shower or a little wash basin area that will be maintained daily just to make sure that it's kept nice and clean or when as needed. Okay. Tissue and paper towels should not be stored in a closet cabinet inside the housekeeping closet to prevent items for contamination from splatter or mop water or soiled hands. No paper products should be stored under a sink. For obvious reasons, sinks sometimes leak, so we don't want there to be a micro leak or some sort of leak that we're unaware of, and then that water gets absorbed by those paper towels, and then we go and use those paper towels, and kind of potentially expose bacteria to places that shouldn't be. Okay. Containers of cleaning agents must be appropriately labeled, indicating its contents. So we need to make sure that every spray bottle or wiping solution has exactly what's in it. We don't want to guess. We don't want to, if you don't know, just come bring it to the administrator or the DON, and that way we can dispose of it. Okay. Um, Spray bottles must not be topped off to prevent microbial contamination. When refilling, the container must be completely emptied and rinsed with tap water prior to filling. So we got to make sure it's completely empty, and then we'll rinse it out, and then we can put the more solution in. Pails and mop buckets should be thoroughly rinsed and wiped with disinfectant detergent solutions. Inverted and then allowed to dry. We don't want it to not be inverted because then the water sits and stands, and that could be a source of infection as well. Pads from the buffing equipment should be removed, washed, and dried or disposed of daily. That would be we have or will be receiving a machine that will do the floors of the facility. And so the parts that need to be removed, we'll go over that. But so you're aware that they should not be standing and being allowed to be moist and wet in that area. Okay. Carts used to transport bagged trash and waste should be cleaned on a weekly basis or as needed. Equipment found to be in disrepair, like paper towel dispensers, hand soap dispensers, etc., anything like that, should be reported to the supervisor on the day it is noted. So try not to wait. Oh, I'll say it, maybe a week from now. If it's messed up, let us know now so we can get it as quickly as possible so we can get it repaired or replaced. Um, Dilution of cleaning products should be prepared according to the manufacturer's specifications listed on the product label. We want to make sure we adhere to that because we don't want to have a product that isn't strong enough to kill the bacteria or that is too strong that it might be cause a problem to the patients or staff that they may get ill because of exposure. Unless otherwise instructed, cleaning products will not be used for any other purpose than which that for which they were specifically designed for. Okay, so we don't use maybe floor cleaning material on the walls. It may damage the paint, it may cause a reaction. We don't know, so we just want to use it for what it's designed to be used for. Mixing of several different varieties of products should not ever be done. So we don't take different products because they smell good or whatever, and we put them together because it can cause a reaction, or it can provide it can cause to be non-dilute. It could be diluted some in such a way that it may not even be an effective cleaning agent. So we just want to maintain it in the separate containers. Okay. Now, moving on, we're going to talk over like how we manage of gases for medical use and management of defective equipment and cleaning of bedside equipment. So it's our policy to ensure the safety of the patients relative to equipment, apparatuses, or appliances, furnishings as part of the treatment plan, and establish a process for management, cleaning bedside equipment, and manage of defective medical devices. What we don't want to do, patients are already coming sick, needing our care. We don't want to cause more harm. Okay, so we want to make sure that all our equipment is in good working order, and if it's not, then we remove it immediately so that that way we can either get it replaced or repaired. Okay, and make sure that we notify either myself or administrators so that we can get that process rolling. Equipment may be the property of the resident by arrangement with the outside vendor. Sometimes patients do bring their own walkers, or they may bring their own CPAP machines, whatever it may be. We want to make sure those are in good working order when the patient is admitted, okay, and throughout the process. Goel Health Inc. shall maintain that the staff shall be instructed regarding the proper use, cleaning, and maintenance of equipment. So we'll go over all that through a validation process and when everyone is brought into the building. The staff should be certain that the resident and family visitors, if appropriate, have been instructed regarding the proper use of equipment. So if the patient's family wants to get the patient up for whatever reason, and they want to use the Hoyer lift and they have not been instructed on how to use the Hoyer lift, they should not be using the Hoyer lift, for example. Goel Health Inc. shall make provisions for the cleaning and disinfecting of contaminated articles and surfaces that cannot be sterilized. Individual patient care supply items designed and identified by manufacturers to be disposable shall not be reused. So if it's designed to be disposed of after use, then we make sure we dispose of it after the use. We don't save. Um, Licensed personnel providing care to residents, which requires equipment as part of the care, shall check to see the equipment is in proper working order prior to use. So things like walkers, wheelchairs, we want to make sure before we get the patient in there, there's not a wheel that's loose, that the walker's sturdy, it's not bent or any of those things before we have them stand up, because we don't want the patient to get injured, but we also don't want our staff to get injured. If a patient falls on us, or the equipment is like the Hoyer lift is not working, or something goes wrong, we don't want anyone to get hurt while working in our facility. So that's why we need to make sure that it's in proper working order. Okay. Um, Goel Inc. will ensure safe handling and storage of medical gas cylinders and compressed oxygen according to the National Fire Protection Agency, is known as NFPA, and Occupational Safety and Health Administration, who we know as OSHA. Okay. Any medical device known or suspected to be defective will not be used, and it will be labeled. Okay. Also, with labeling, we will have labels that state dirty, do not use. When it's in the patient's room after the patient's been discharged from our facility, and then we'll have ones that are labeled clean and okay to be used, and also wrapped in plastic, which we'll go over later on in the policy. But I just do want to introduce that these are the tags that we'll be using to identify, so that staff knows, oh, orange dirty, yellow good. Okay. Um, as much as possible, Go Health Inc. will seek patient-specific devices. However, equipment will be cleaned after each use. Manufacturer guidelines will take precedence to the following: use a germicidal solution, soap and water, or alcohol and damp cloth or paper towel. Submersion in boiling water for a minimum of 30 minutes. Dry all surfaces using friction, and in some cases, the use of Clorox Total 360 machine that we have for disinfectant for kind of porous surfaces. So one of these ways will be used, or some of these ways, or all of these ways will be used in order to maintain cleanliness. Obviously, we have 18 beds here, and so we would love to have 18 pieces of equipment that are specific to each patient. But things like Hoyer lifts, We just don't have the room for 18 of them. We have a Hoyer lift that we can use. So in between uses, when any time that a piece of equipment goes into a patient's room, it needs to be cleaned before it comes out into the main hallway or into be used into another patient's room. The equipment specific to the patient, like the actual sling on the Hoyer lift, those will be for the patient's use only, unless it is cleaned through a cleaning process, either like washing or using another 360 before we use it with another patient. Okay. Thermometers. Personal thermometers are provided to individual residents. We must discard when patient is discharged and may not be used for other residents. So it is our practice here that we will have a blood pressure cuff machine that has heart rate, blood pressure, that will be specific to the patient. Also, an SpO2 monitor and a thermometer will be given to each patient, and those are for the patient only. We do not move those around. They stay in the patient's room, and then when the patient's discharged, they either can go with them or they can be disposed of, but we will not be reusing those, okay? Defective equipment. If a device being utilized by a resident is suspected to have failure or becomes defective, obtain any necessary medical attention if needed. So if the patient gets hurt while using equipment, first and foremost, the patient is first. Okay, so we make sure the patient's good, we're okay. If nothing happens, we just notice it's defective. We obviously just move it away and we don't use it. We'll get another piece of equipment that we can use. But we will discontinue the use and secure the device and all related accessories, included disposables and packaging. We'll put them all together and we'll put on a tag that says do not use. Okay. And so I don't have those, but we will show those in the validation process. Complete and place appropriate tag defect device on all items, as I said. Control settings should not be changed on devices that have been involved in an incident unless necessary to minimize injury at the time the incident occurs. If the item is leased or owned by third parties, notify the vendor who provided the item. Most likely, you guys will notify either myself or the administrator, Elliot, so that we can get a hold of the vendor to get replacements. That's not maybe something that you can do, but maybe on the weekends you might, okay? And then we'll complete a report and forward to the administrator. So we have a injury report form that we'll go over in orientation and later on in some of the training that you will complete in the timeframes that when those need to be completed. Okay. Defective and contaminated equipment. Place the equipment device in a bag or container appropriate to prevent exposure of those handling the device. Okay, so if it's defective, we cover it. We put a tag that says defective, not use. And so and when it says contaminated equipment, anytime we move anything from a patient's room out into storage, it needs to be cleaned. Okay, uh, so. Like I said, complete and place appropriate tags on all items. Per this policy, all dirty items needing to be removed from the patient care area must be cleaned before exiting the patient's room and entering storage. And the reason why is we don't want to take dirty equipment, put it in our clean storage, and then now that storage area becomes dirty and there's potential for cross-contamination, right? Clean equipment that is damaged. Clean equipment that is damaged must still have a plastic cover. So even though it's damaged, it still needs to be cleaned, then placed into storage. So we don't just take it out it's all and leave it dirty and put it in storage. We clean it first, cover it, and then take it to the storage area. Full and empty oxygen cylinders are segregated when stored. So we don't mix full and empties because we don't want somebody to accidentally grab an empty and then there's no oxygen for the patient. Um, we will be for empty signs. Oxygen cylinders will be secured to prevent potential injury, property damage, and fire. So we have cages on the beds when patients are being moved for oxygen to be stored in while in use. We do not put oxygen on the bed and then move the patient. It must be inside a container, storage cage. Or we have in our facilities little carts that you can secure. So if it does fall, it's secure. It prevents the neck of the cylinder from being damaged and potentially being basically a missile that could potentially hurt people. Okay. So we want to make sure that we never, never, never move patients in a bed with oxygen either at the foot of their bed or unsecure. We just do not do that. If oxygen cylinders are stored outside, which we do have storage outside, oxygen cylinders must be stored in a fenced area with a locked door or gate for security. The oxygen cylinders will be protected from extreme temperatures by a small roof or sun barrier over the medical gas cylinders, which we have. In the storage area, there's clearly labeled empty and full, so we know which one is which, and you put them in an appropriate area. Okay. Well, I thank you for your time. This is the end of our policy in regards to equipment cleaning. Thank you so much.